Now I try my best to keep all my promises, but sometimes those promises can take me a while to fulfill. But today we're going to be actually fulfilling one of those promises I made quite a while ago by finally installing my boost controller. Now what does a boost controller do? Well, first we have to understand the concept of turbocharging, which is what applies to this 240SX right here. Now the four essential things you need for an internal combustion engine is fuel, air, spark, and compression. So what a turbocharger does is it compresses air and forces it into the motor. Now when you run more air, you need to run more fuel to keep that stoichiometric ratio happy. Now this car is already tuned for what I want to set it to, so all we need to do is install this controller, which will set the boost pressure to where I need it to be for this motor. Now in order to limit the amount of compressed air that turbocharger produces, we need to utilize a wastegate, which basically restricts the amount of air that this turbocharger can produce. A boost controller is going to bypass that so you can run more boost. Now if you've been following this channel for some time now, you know that I've been saying how much I wanted to install a boost controller and how quickly I said I was going to install a boost controller. Well, now today is the day that we finally install this thing. So let's go. Now this is a Turbo Smart boost controller, and what's nice about this is it's a dual stage boost controller, which means that we have two settings that we can utilize. One setting for low boost and one setting for high boost. It's an electronic boost controller that allows you to switch back and forth within the cabin the amount of boost that you're wanting to run. So now that we have the boost controller mounted, we can then hook up our interceptor, which will go in between the turbo source and the wastegate down there. Alright, so now we have the boost pressure signal hooked up. We've got our black ground wired up so we can hook it up to the chassis. We've also got our power source running through the firewall. We've got it running through the firewall of the interior. We've got it all connected up to this switch here, which we'll be able to switch between high and low boost, depending on what position the switch is in. Now the last thing I have to do is connect our power source for this switch. Now I could use the same power sources on my gauges, however I don't want to run the risk of running too much power through them. So I'm going to find another source to power this switch. Alright, so after a little more than an hour, we finally have the boost controller installed. It's not the cleanest install, but it should be pretty functional for what we want to do. Now let's take this thing for a spin. So the car seems to be running pretty well. You can definitely tell the difference between the normal wastegate setting and the higher boost setting. I'm trying to aim for about 15 pounds, whereas the stock wastegate setting is at about 7 psi. Although with this boost controller, it does like to spike to about 8 or 9, which is no big deal because the ECU can handle it. But overall, pretty happy, but we're gonna give this one more go and see if I can get it right at 15. After that drive, I seemed to notice that the car seemed to be running a little better than it did before. Maybe that's because we're running pressures where the ECU was actually tuned for, but I could be wrong, just a guess. All in all, I'm pretty happy with how the boost controller is doing. We're running about 8 or 9 psi for the low setting and about 14 for the high setting. We have really good AFRs. That's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'll be sure to include a link to the product in the description as well. If you stuck around to the very end, thank you guys so much for watching. If you'd like to continue to see my channel grow, make sure you hit that like button. You have no idea what it does for me. Either way, I'm going to keep these videos coming, so thank you all so much, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.